Hey guys, we're back in the shop, and today we've got a few goals. Actually, ultimately there's one goal. Working on the steering axle for Raggedy Red, the rear steer axle. And in the last video, you should have seen me weld on the inner C's. So I got that done. I'll show you in just a second. Today what I'd like to do is weld the tubes into the center section. So first and foremost, let's get this out of the way. I got the inner C's welded on. There's 3 passes there. I did heat them up. And the next thing, I'm gonna weld the tubes into the center section. I'm just gonna place some weld here and hopefully that'll keep them from spinning. It has in the current axle. But before I get to that, I really want to clean the center section up. And you could hit that with a wire wheel if you want and spend hours and never get it just right. So I'm going to try something a little bit different. I bought one of these Sandblast bottles. It's a 110-pound Sandblast pod, I think is what they call them, but it's pressurized. Got it at Harbor Freight, and all the reviews say it sucks unless you make some modifications. And so I did buy the parts to do the modification. So to get to the goal today, which is weld up the tubes into the center section, I'd really like to sandblast the center section, but to get to that I got to make a few modifications. So I'll show you what I got. Okay, here is the bottom of the Sandblast pod, whatever it's called. And all these fittings, this quarter turn valve, this fitting here, this is all 3/8. And this is where the air comes in here, mixes in this part with the blast media. And when you open up the valve, it comes out this larger hose. So what I'm told is, and the reason this thing sucks is because this thing gets clogged up and you spend more time unclogging it than actually working. So there is some upgrade. You change this out and all these pieces to 1/2 inch. You still have 3/8 coming out of the bottom here, but all this stuff is 1/2 inch. And hopefully you won't spend your day undoing clogs. Okay, so tons of resources on the interwebs on YouTube about how to make these modifications and the parts you need. So what I did is went out there and I found a website. I can't remember what site it was. Oh, on Garage Journal. Garage Journal, I found this. It's basically a parts list. And I brought this to Lowe's. And I got all the parts, and here's kind of just loosely put together. This is what it'll look like. So the air inlet comes in and exits a 1/2 inch nipple, and it mixes in this 1/2 inch T. And then this ball valve, this quarter turn valve, is 1/2 inch, and you've got to get this 3/8 to 1/2 inch NPT fitting. So that's what we have, and hopefully once I get this put together we won't be fighting clogs all day. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing installed and we will see if this does anything for us. So that's step 1 to get to our ultimate goal, which is to weld the tubes into the center section. Okay, so we got all the little parts changed out on the Sandblaster pod, and I got a couple of observations that I wanted to point out. First thing, everything went together fairly well. I got a cheap, I guess, quarter turn valve, and so this screw, this nut that holds the valve on is metal, steel, and it threads into brass, and so that strips out pretty easily. The other thing is this air fitting swivels right there, but it's really, really tight. So you could see where I had to put some pliers on it. As I screwed it in, the hose would then twist. And so hopefully I didn't damage the crimp in this hose, and it doesn't come apart. But it's all on tight, everything's Teflon taped. We'll see if it leaks and how this thing performs. So I guess the next step is to go outside and fill this thing up with blast media and see if I can make it work. So hopefully this thing will do a good job. I'm really hopeful because I've got a number of things that I'd like to clean up with some sandblasting. So we'll see. So I'm gonna go try it out. Okay guys, so I got the sandblaster put together with the modification so it wouldn't clog. It's going to town, I got it figured out. Y'all saw a little bit of it. Works really well, but it did clog. And I think I've got it narrowed down. It's the end, the tip that was getting clogged. I changed that out to a little bit bigger one, and it did fine. It really does work well. So I'm gonna show you the axle. Is it perfect? No. Is it good enough? Absolutely. It's a whole lot better than it was. And this is the weld surface. That's what I'm going to weld on. But you could see, I mean, you could see all the letters and numbers there in the casting. I think it did a good job. So not too shabby. At any rate, that was one of the steps in accomplishing our goal in the shop today, which is weld up the tubes into the center section, and then I don't know, that'll probably be enough for this video, and we'll move on to the next step, which I think is probably I'm gonna spray some paint on it on the center section, and then weld the truss on. So yeah, that's about it for today. I'm gonna get busy welding this thing up. Actually, I got a little bit of cleanup in the shop to do. Okay, so here's my plan. This is really cool. This is a bad little dude. I got this little weed burner thing from Harbor Freight. It's got a starter and it hooks to a propane tank. And I'm gonna use this to heat up my center section. I'll show you this thing because I'm telling you, man, this is mean. I'm gonna heat the center section up to 350 degrees, and then I'll go ahead and weld the tubes to the center section. Then I'll wrap it with a welding blanket and periodically come out and stress relieve it with a ball peen hammer. That's what I did on Raggedy Red, what, 10, 11 years ago? And so far so good. So there you have it, that's my plan. Hopefully it works out that way, we'll see. All right, so check out this weed burner. This is crazy, man. It's got this handle. That's nothing, right? Whoa! Right? That's nuts. Okay, so I think we got it. I did 2 passes to weld up the tubes in the center section, and now I got it covered with a welding blanket, and I will come out here periodically and tap it with a ball peen hammer to stress relieve it, and I think that'll be done. Hey guys, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and eventually I'm going to have a rear steer axle, so we're making headway. This is the axle. This is where we stand right now. It's covered up with a welding blanket, cooling slowly. And I'm going to go in and ping it every now and then to stress relieve the cast iron. So there you have it. Stick around, stay tuned. There is more steering axle content coming up. I think next will be to fit the truss on. I've got several orders coming in, all my brackets, and eventually we're gonna tear the rear end out of Raggedy Red and fit the steering axle in there. So fingers crossed. I hope it works out. We'll see you on the trail, and thanks for watching.